Ocean. Now let's get back to the Big 12 notes. The teams we did not touch on. West Virginia. Do we have any idea about West Virginia? Other than we have said that out of all of the teams in the Big 12 this year, that Neil Brown's seat might be the most hot.
I mean, it's not even a might be. I mean, who's even in the running for a hot seat besides him right now? I don't think there is anybody that's even close to being in the running for that. So yeah, it's not a might be. It's a definitely he's on the hottest seat in the Big 12, and I think that there have been some roster moves that have created a little bit of excitement from what I've seen on the periphery. I know that, just simply feeling like you might actually have your quarterbacks moving forward is a good feeling to have. I know it was kind of a messy situation last year with just JT Daniels and how all of that unfolded, but now you got a couple of solid options you can move forward with. And, I'm excited to see, kind of how some of these up-and-comers, these new guys, start to make their impact. Because I think if you're Neil Brown, you got to empty the cupboard and roll with whatever's going to work. And it's not necessarily going to be a slow and steady build like, I'm going to go and get into the transfer portal. And, at this point now, you got to put your foot on the gas. So I think that's going to make them hungry. I think they're going to have their backs against the wall. And I need to dive into their roster a little bit further as far as some of their strengths and weaknesses. I haven't got around to them necessarily, but do know they've been very active. And I do know there's a feeling of urgency there in Morgantown right now. So, Graham Harrell's obviously gone. I was paying a little bit closer attention just due to him, but that was a one-year stint that didn't work out the way Neil Brown thought it was going to, just overall offensively. So they've made changes, and hopefully those changes are for the better.
All right, last two programs, Oklahoma State, lots of transition. In fact, there was a point last year at the end of their season where there were rumblings that, okay, people are just flying out of there, and a lot of them were. And maybe that was a good thing. Mike Gundy, of course, I just trust his longevity, his sustainability, his consistency, but will be very interesting to watch Oklahoma State as they close out their spring drills this week and enter 2023.
Yeah, it will be. I don't really know what to expect with them. You got Alan Bowman in there now replacing Spencer Sanders. It's first time we'll see, it not be the Spencer Sanders era in what feels like quite a long time. I know that he didn't start every game. He was hurt, obviously, and others saw time. But, that was pretty much their guy for the last several years. And now they've turned the page on not only him but on a lot of others as well. There was, a lot of – I guess if you're talking about hot seat, like you're kind of sort of even pointing in a certain direction. Maybe Gundy to like the slightest of extent, especially not in comparison to Neil Brown. I don't consider them anywhere close in the same universe of a hot seat. But, just as far as in the is it time for these two to just go their separate ways kind of level? Like maybe you could start to sense some of that with Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State. But I don't know. I think this year will be a big tell as far as that goes. It's sort of what you can feel like the future is there with him in that program, because typically he does bounce back pretty well. And this sets up to maybe be one of those years where he flexes his muscle a little bit and shows everybody of like, hey, see, I still got it. Never lost it. And just 2 years ago, they were in the Big 12 title game. So it's not like, they've been on some epic losing streak. It's just that last year was a bit of a disappointment. And so as it ebbs and flows, maybe they're about to be back in order for another, move up. But they are a team that I certainly have a lot of questions about and don't have necessarily just a boatload of confidence that I want to place on them at the moment. Need to see more of how the offseason unfolds. But, there's been a lot of turnover.
And the team that was peaking, and now they have leveled off, and Matt Campbell at Iowa State.
He's a great coach, but they lose even more talent. I don't know how they're necessarily better, given that they lost a bunch of guys 2 years ago, and now they've lost like the rest of those guys with this past class. I know defensively they'll be very good, but I just got major questions about Hunter Deckers, and I don't think it's just plug and play at running back necessarily of like, oh, it's just going to be the next David Montgomery or the next, name the others that have all had success there. Maybe they just keep on that route of just being able to play solid defense and run the football well and don't have to worry about too many other things. But they need a little bit of those other things. They didn't have that last year necessarily at the quarterback spot. And so I think, there's a lot of weight on Hunter Decker's shoulders. You feel good about, a lot of the other intangibles that they'll have just because, Campbell's been in place for a long time now, and they've had the foundation laid for quite some time, but they're never going to be like toe-to-toe with the top teams in the conference talent-wise. So it comes down to just chemistry and coaching. Coaching you feel great about, but chemistry-wise, how are they? Do they have difference makers? I don't know that just yet because a lot of those guys have moved on or are moving on now. So, there's a lot to wonder about there. And, it has kind of felt like they've sort of been in a little bit of a struggle, or at least last year definitely felt like it was a lot of a struggle. So I don't know. This could be a year where they blossom and Hunter Decker's improves drastically, and they've turned the page and get back to where they felt like they were a couple of years ago. But there are a lot of questions there in Ames and a lot of talent to replace.
All right.